This is day 2 of action here at the Apex Court after the winter break, and we're getting right into the midst of things. The Adani-Hindenburg case, it was expected, and the Supreme Court delivering on that. A 3-judge bench of the Apex Court headed by none other than the Chief Justice himself, coming out with the judgment in this important matter. Here are the takeaways of the big judgment that came just a few moments back. Firstly, as far as the regulatory framework is concerned, on that question, the Supreme Court has overwhelmingly ruled that all is good, all is well. As far as the regulatory framework with respect to FPI regulations, with respect to LODR regulations, there is no requirement for the Supreme Court to intervene. It would not be appropriate for the Supreme Court to intervene and to supplement the authority of SEBI. And in fact has addressed the question. There were arguments that were raised by petitioners that there is a dilution of FPI norms to allow mischief. On that count, the Supreme Court ruling that far from dilution, there has been a tightening of FPI regulations. Disclosure norms have been tightened even further and are now at par with the PMLA. So that's as far as the regulatory framework is concerned, especially on the issue of disclosures and beneficial owners. That's number one. On the issue of SEBI investigations into Adani, here the Supreme Court takes on record that as far as 24 investigations that were initiated by SEBI are concerned, out of 24, 22 have been completed. That was the submission that SEBI had made, and that 2 are remaining. For the remaining 2, the Supreme Court has directed that these 2 investigations ideally should be completed in a window of 3 months' time. So that's somewhat of a tentative timeline that has been given by the Apex Court to the market regulator. For the other 22 out of 24 which have been completed, the Supreme Court has not directed for disclosure of findings of those investigations. What the Supreme Court has done is that these 22 investigations now need to be taken to their logical conclusion, which would mean that SEBI's board would deliberate on it, pass orders, and then subsequently action taken. That's the big takeaway as far as Adani investigations are concerned. Importantly, there are 3 issues where the Apex Court has given an overwhelming no. The first issue is with respect to should the investigation be transferred to the CBI, the Supreme Court giving an unequivocal no, saying that there is no case made out for SEBI's investigation to be transferred to the CBI, that SEBI should be allowed to continue. Second, on the issue of the OCCRP reports, the reports that appeared in the Financial Times and the Guardian, here all, again, the petitioners had raised these questions, these reports that were published overseas. Here the Supreme Court says that while this can supplement the investigation, these reports can supplement the investigation, they cannot be taken as gospel truth, they cannot be taken as concrete proof, and that is importantly an important clarification that the Apex Court has given. Finally, on the issue of conflict of interest, this is the third unequivocal no. Here again, the Supreme Court rules that despite the concerns that have been raised by the petitioners with respect to conduct of the members of the expert committee, there again the Supreme Court says that no case of conflict had been made out. Keep in mind that petitioners, especially with respect to one of these members of the expert committee, that's lawyer now turned judge Somsekhar Sundaresan, had said that he had appeared previously for Adani. Here the Supreme Court had observed as a part of these hearings that he appeared for Adani about 17 years back, and that having appeared for a client 17 years back cannot be held against him now in 2023. So no case of conflict of interest. Finally, with respect to the road ahead, with respect to guidance on the way forward, there are 2 aspects that the Apex Court has given clarity on. Firstly, the Supreme Court has said that the expert committee has given guidance, has given suggestions and recommendations on strengthening of the regulatory framework. Here, the Supreme Court has directed SEBI, the market regulator, as well as the government to take cognizance of those and to consider them for further improving and strengthening the existing regulatory framework. That's one. And second, with respect to the short selling that took place, here the Supreme Court has given a pointed direction that SEBI is to investigate whether short selling by entities such as Hindenburg and others had caused an infraction of Indian law, and whether there is need for suitable action to be taken by the market regulator.